The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Attention Ditto Heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the soul of excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
The people that have the responsibility of bringing this to an end can do it today. Okay? What they need to do is, leave their egos at the door, get inside, and come up with a solution to the problem. Because we don't deserve this as TSA agents that are trying to keep the skies safe, but also the traveling public doesn't deserve this. And when you see people in lines with their children for 3-4 hours trying to go somewhere, and then they can't get there because the cruise ship has left because their flight was delayed, try to explain that to a 6-year-old, 7-year-old about what's going on.
Welcome, my friends, to the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. The voice you heard was of George Borick, who is with the American Federation of Government Employees. He's a union guy, complaining about the Democrat-inspired shutdown that is now in day 32. I must admit, right before the show began, I was listening to one of the most interesting conversations I have heard in quite some time about matters of sport. I explained earlier, I was pre-show kind of stuff with Carlos. Philip is in the room. I'm saying, it's a lot of stuff going on. And Carlos informs me that, yes, true, it's March. And what did you say happens in March?
March Madness is in March. College basketball, best time of the year.
And it amazes me that you March Madness. And then it descended into a conversation of other sports. You said it's dead. When? When is it dead?
Mid-April, between the NBA playoffs and the March Madness ending.
Okay. And then, so wait a minute. Then there's then the Masters comes.
The Masters in Georgia. And then baseball season starts, which I don't care about.
And you don't like baseball.
I hate baseball. I hate golf.
You hate baseball and you hate golf. Baseball was America's pastime once upon a time. And Philip, I imagine, I don't know what, Philip, did I take it that you're not a fan of golf either?
I don't care about golf, no.
Do you care about March Madness?
I care about it a little bit. I'm not going mad over it.
So you don't do all this stuff I hear people do, which I never understood anyway. I'm sorry. I am like the worst ignorant. I don't understand what these brackets are. Oh, I don't care about brackets unless brackets are something you get at the hardware store. And they have specific, I don't know what these brackets are. And
one of these days I'm going to have a perfect bracket and you're going to see. Everybody's going to see.
Okay. Welcome, my friends. I March Madness every year when it comes up, I'm amazed because I pay zero attention to it, and I don't understand why it gets this fervor over. Anyway, there are so many other things going on, ladies and gentlemen. Let us take a trip into the news of the day. I, ladies and gentlemen, must say that the New York Times has proven themselves to be one of the most, I think it could be said in some quarters, has laid an attack that might go down as one of the most racist attacks on somebody in history. I grew up, as many of you did, believing that Cesar Chavez was a great man. He started, co-founder of the United Farm Workers of America, a union that gave voice to the millions and millions of people. The Democrats, especially, say the country would not be able to sustain itself without the farm workers. And we know that. I'm not. But yet the New York Times did an investigation on this man, and they have torn him down. Now, when I say racist, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, but this is a very serious matter, and there's no laughing about it. Apparently, all these years, we have been told that Cesar Chavez was just, a hero. Behind the mask of a hero was a rapist, someone that raped not only one woman, but several, apparently. He's not here to defend himself, but children. One complaint of a 12-year-old girl when Mr. Chavez first touched her, she says, inappropriately, groping her breast in the same office where he had met another one of his victims. And it goes even deeper than that. One of the co-founders of the movement, highly regarded civil rights worker, Dolores Huerta, who, 95 years old, has come out and basically exposed Cesar Chavez for raping her on 2 different occasions, both of which left her impregnated. She gave the children to other families, although they had reunited with them, and to raise following those pregnancies. And his legacy is just right now. They were supposed to be honoring Cesar Chavez today. His legacy is in the garbage. The claims against Cesar Chavez are incompatible with our nation's organization's values. Some of the reports are family issues, said the group, United Farm Workers, not our place to comment on. Far more troubling, the allegations involving the abuse of young women or minors. So they canceled all the events. New York Times has an 11-page story on it. This Chavez matter. Okay, today, SAVE Act on the floor of the Senate. Also, Markwayne Mullin testifying in Congress. He and Rand Paul got into it. Rand Paul came out of that session saying he is not going to vote for Markwayne Mullin. The SAVE Act, the usual disinformation from leftist politicians being spoken on the Senate floor. Every single Democrat is either telling truths about what is in the act, what it will do. They are clearly afraid. I saw a headline today from Senate, was in the Hill, and it was Senate Majority Leader John Thune, and the headline was that the Republicans plan to make this an issue in November if it doesn't pass. This will be the election issue. Yes, Carlos just shrugged his shoulders so what? And yes, exactly. We're going to make it an issue in November? What?
So are we going to be keep talking about it all summer?
No. Because other things will transpire between now and we would be talking about it all summer if the Republicans insisted on stopping the Senate and having a true filibuster on this bill. In other words, talk it out till it can't be talked out anymore, which could go on for months, but soon doesn't want to do that. It is said that they're having this little dance on the Senate floor to appease Donald Trump. Lisa Murkowski voted against Republican advancing the bill to even have a debate. Senator Mitch McConnell said, yeah, let's have the debate, but his sources close to McConnell say he's not in favor of the bill. And then you have this Tom Tillis guy out of North Carolina who's worse than, in some ways, than John McCain was in terms of voting against his party. And this Lisa Murkowski, this triumvirate, Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, and then you have Sue Collins sometimes. Sometimes she'll exit that triumvirate, and this guy Curtis out of Utah will join it. You can always count on the Republicans to have fractions in their coalition, fractures, I should say, not fractions, fractures in their coalition. When Democrats are pretty much standing firm, the only Democrat willing to raise his hand and go against their cult, their political cult, is John Fetterman on some occasions. In fact, we have two from John Fetterman today. We may as well play them now since we brought his name up. Cut 10, Fetterman says he refuses to go along with this government shutdown that his entire Democrat Party almost is for.
I made me the only Democrat that refused to shutting our DHS down. You know, some people might say that doesn't mean I have any less commitment to reform ICE. That's just categorically not true. But it's a strange devotion. I don't understand why you would shut the entire agency down just because you want those kind of reforms on ICE that has absolutely no impact on ICE and doesn't force any of those things. I refuse to do that, and I refuse to punish those union members that are working, and now especially parts of that. It's true. It's like the cybersecurity agency's part of DHS.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's currently on the shutdown. And now two of the top agents of cyber attacks come from Iran and China. They must be elated to know that part is all shut down, because that's part of this shutdown that does not bring any reform to ICE. You know, that I want any less than other Democrats, you know, here. The difference is I refuse to punish and make our nation less secure.
Yeah, a lot of common sense there with Fetterman on this one. Cut 11, he also talked about what led ICE to, well, he didn't frame it in this way, I am, what led to ICE being so active now. And that is what happened under the Biden years. And this is what he said about the Biden years and what was happening at our border.
I was alarmed that there were up to 300,000 encounters at our border once a month. And that puts that in perspective. That's the size of Pittsburgh showing up at our border. And that's not sustainable, and that's not manageable.
Well, he seems to be one of the only ones willing on their side to raise up his hand and speak for what's right. We will talk about some of the others. There's some quotes out of today's session with Markwayne Mullin, but I only chose one, and that is his interaction with Rand Paul. So I want to get to that. Yes, it is that time. Carlos, motioning me. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media continues. Don't go away.
Rush. This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
The full exchange went over 5 minutes, but Rand Paul called Markwayne Mullin a liar in today's oversight hearings, confirming Markwayne for the Kristi Noem position. Here's the response.
Chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of the remarks that I've made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms of the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma. It's bigger than the partisan bickering that we have. It's bigger than the political differences we have. The truth is, I have a job to do, and I don't like to fail at anything at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now you heard Rand Paul notes. Let's get to other things. Today, one of the most amazing polls came out. I've never, in all the years I have studied politics, and that is since I was a child, when a little children. I have been following politics since I was a little children, and I have never, ever in my entire life heard of a poll result like this unless it was a fake result from there's a town in Ohio, in Cuyahoga County, where Mitt Romney, not one person in the entire county supposedly voted for Mitt Romney. And it was, but I ain't never heard of no poll with folks. You listen to this. This is from CNN, Harry Enton, reporting on this poll. Listen to this.
And this is one of those, because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%. If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Now, there are some Republicans who disapprove of Donald John Trump, but they are not members of the Make America Great Again movement. The bottom line is this: if you are a member of MAGA, you approve of Donald Trump.
It's interesting, though, because there have been a couple prominent people who have sort of come out online, and they're very mad about this war with Iran because he promised no new wars. Is there any sign that people might be leaving MAGA relative to 2024?
Yeah, okay. So, I've said it before, and, the theme of this segment is Tucker Carlson be darned. And when we look at the numbers, I mean, I've heard some people say, oh, you know what, when you look at those MAGA numbers, it doesn't account for those who might have left MAGA. But take a look here. Americans who identify as MAGA, in November of 2024, it was 28% of Americans. Now it's basically the same. If anything, it's slightly higher at 30%. The bottom line is this. The MAGA base within the GOP is not shrinking. It's the same size. If anything, it is slightly larger than it was back in 2024 when, of course, Donald Trump won a second term. So that 100% that Donald Trump has approval among MAGA GOP, that is not an artifact of MAGA shrinking. It's just an indication of how strong Donald Trump's grip is on that MAGA base.
And so I guess it begs the question of what's happening with inside the GOP and if there are any splits there, because with those kind of numbers, they're going to want to retain that, right? So they can retain their seats.
Yes. And you know what we're talking about? You know, we mentioned Iran in the intro of this segment. GOP on U.S. military action in Iran. Look at this. In MAGA, it's 90% approval. It's 90% approval, just 5% disapproval. If you disapprove of the job that Donald Trump is doing, or excuse me, the U.S. military action in Iran, and you're a member of the GOP, look at this. It's your non-MAGA. You're not MAGA. It's 36% there, 54% approve. But the majority of Republicans approve of the job that the U.S. military action is in Iran, and the majority of MAGA, which is the majority of the GOP, very much approve, 90%. Very little split in Donald Trump's base. Those who disapprove in the GOP, simply put, they hate MAGA.
It's really clear. MAGA has the floor.
MAGA has the floor, 100%.
All right. Harry Anton, thank you so much.
Well, I've never seen that. A polling come out 100%. Now, 30%, he said 30% of the Republican Party is up from 28%, self-identifies as MAGA. So that 30% of the people 100% support Donald Trump. That is astounding. Have never seen poll numbers like that before. And then he gets a 90% approval rating on Iran from even those favorable action on Iran. That is just amazing, especially when you consider how the Republican Senate and certain people there don't ever seem to want to cooperate. Caroline Leavitt was on Fox talking about the SAVE Act, Cut 2, and it's on the floor of the Senate now, and this is what she had to say.
On that note, back to Truth Social, the president said this just yesterday. He said the Save America Act is one of the most important and consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress and America itself. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against Save America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. How big of a defeat would this be for the Trump agenda if it does go down the way we expect?
Well, Bill, I do think President Trump would reject the premise of your question that this bill is doomed to fail. He's fighting every day to get the votes needed to pass this country-saving legislation, the Save America Act, which has some of the most common-sense proposals ever proposed by either party on Capitol Hill. Voter ID, who could be against it? 90% of Americans support it. No mail-in ballots, which we know create a tremendous amount of fraud in our electoral system, with common-sense exceptions, of course, for those in our military and others. No more transgender mutilation surgeries for young minor children. Again, a 90% issue supported by the American people. No men in women's sports, and proof of citizenship to vote. These are common sense proposals that the President of the United States supports because he knows the vast majority of the people in this country support. And every senator on Capitol Hill, both Republican and Democrat, frankly, would be wise to vote for this legislation because it's in the best interest of their constituents and our country to do so. We're working with the Senate on this daily, and the President is a fighter. As you know, he's not going to give up the fight on this one.
Yeah, well, that at the hearings today for Mark Mullin, that drama mama, part of the Sedition 6, Senator Lee Slotkin, had questions for Mullin, and it went on too. But one of the things that they're trying to stir up now is this idea that ICE is going to be at the polling centers for the November elections. And so this is Cut 14, just part of the drama mama, Miss Sedition, Senator Slotkin.
To put uniformed officers at polling locations in 2026.
Ma'am, we said this in your office. The only reason why my officers would be there if there was a specific threat for them to be there, not for intimidation. And
so
I said
even though we didn't need it
that.
During World War II, we didn't need it during Vietnam or the War on Terror, we never had to put uniformed military there. Now, you feel that there's going to be a reason that there's going to be an armed threat to the United States that you
no,
need
ma'am.
to potentially be there?
I can't sit there and guarantee hypothetically what threat would be and not. I'm not putting military. That's not within my privy.
Uniformed officers.
But if there is a threat, a specific threat, say it's in a Jewish community, and there is a threat that's specific to that polling area, then we will work with local law enforcement. There'll be a reason for us to be there, and it'll be known why we're there.
Now, the Democrats never bring up this. I don't know whether any of you remember election 2016 presidential election down there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You know what took place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Did you know that there was anything out of the ordinary? Have you ever heard about anything out of the ordinary in Philadelphia? Carlos, did you ever just anything at all?
It's the founding fathers met and signed. No, that's not it.
Philadelphia, Liberty Bell there. Yes, this is where Philadelphia, the birthplace of America, Philadelphia. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the elections. The last election, 2016, not the last election, it's 2016. You had members of a group, the new Black Panther Party. And thank goodness they differentiated themselves as new, because these little kids pretending to be Black Panthers couldn't hold the water for the original Black Panthers. Anyway, a bunch of the new Black Panthers showed up at a polling station in Philadelphia. Gorgeous. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, she just walked in. She's most beautiful. Had to make a comment. Anyway, the new Black Panther Party showed up at the polling stations and they intimidated voters. And who were the voters that they were trying to intimidate? White people. Now, the Democrat Party has never said a word. This was all over social media. You never see people like Elise Slotkin, drama mama, drama queen. You never see any of these people with the Save Act talk about what actually happened. Instead, they're trying to make an issue out of something that hasn't happened and that maybe could happen if circumstances dictated it, but certainly there were no plans for it happening. Is ICE going to show up at the polling stations? And she's not the only one. The Democrats have sent 3 or 4 of their messengers out with this message in the past few weeks, which means it is something of concern to them. Why in the world, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, why would Democrats be concerned about ICE agents showing up in the vicinity of polling stations? Why would that be a problem? Why are they putting so much energy into the idea, even though there is no plan? There is no plan at all to have ICE agents anywhere near polling stations. Why are Democrats so worried? I can't figure it out, he says, laughing to himself. I can't figure it out. Ladies and gentlemen, something big is brewing out there on the left coast of America. California, yes, the left coast of America. This could be big. This could be better than anybody thought if it materializes. GOP candidate, this is from Fox. There's an equally troubling story today, troubled from their point of view, from the Los Angeles Times, I believe, or it was yesterday. Anyway, GOP candidate touts failure of Newsom Democrats, and as a new poll shows, Republicans. Let me just do this again, because I got to get this right. GOP candidate cites failure of Newsom Dems. As new poll shows, Republicans leading crowded California field. California Republican gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton sounded off on Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, calling him an absolute failure on every front. Steve Hilton, a legal immigrant and political newcomer, is running as a Republican for the governor of California. Though California has long since been written off by many as a progressive stronghold, the most recent polling indicates that Hilton may be right. On Wednesday, Berkeley's Institute of Governmental Studies released a poll showing Hilton leading California voter preferences at 17%. Another Republican, Riverside Sheriff Chad Bianco, follows at 16%. Both Republicans are ahead of the two top Democrat names, Eric Swalwell and former House Representative Katie Porter, who likes to abuse her staff. They are each at 13%. So you got Fang Fang's boyfriend, the Chinese spy Fang Fang, whose boyfriend was Eric Swalwell. And there are reports that Eric Swalwell doesn't really even live in California. His official real residence is in Washington, D.C. He's supposedly renting a room from somebody in California. Doesn't even live there. You got Swalwell, Fang Fang's ex-boyfriend, and you have Katie Porter, whose abuses of her staff have been reported far and wide. But now, the way that California rigged their system, they rigged it on this top choice thing. It sounds like a game show. Voters' choice. So the people that draw in the top two positions are the ones, regardless of party, regardless of anything else. And this way, California assured, they thought forever, they'd only get Democrats and Republicans would be totally frozen out of everything. But now you have a crowded Democrat field. And, by the way, other story in California with that, I'm so sorry I don't have this story handy right now. Do you know, I'm turning around and I'm looking to see if I have it from earlier in the week. Do you know that out in California they're having a debate and the Democrats are complaining because only the white candidates, this is USC, and I think it's an ABC station hosting the debate, and they rigged the debate, so that only white candidates can participate in it, wealthy. Even it's so funny. There's so much going on there. But the Republicans are in the top two positions. This could be the biggest political backfire in state gubernatorial history if the two Republicans end up being the two top-tier voters in this ranked choice voting scam. It's delicious. Wilson Pickett, Wicked Wilson Pickett, born on this day. Over 50 songs on the R&B charts, many crossed over into the Billboard's Hot 100 charts. The Midnight Hour, Mustang Sally, Land of a Thousand Dances, Funky Broadway, so much more. Passed away in 2006. Ha! James Golden. Ha! What'd I say? Listen. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Rush. This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My
It's the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush.
Now, here's James Golden.
That California story, we're going to have to go in detail. Javier Becerra, former U.S. executive under Biden, along with Betty Yee, former state controller, Tony Thurman, even former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villagrostia, have all been left out of the debate. All of them are people of color. And yet they put in some guy, San Jose Mayor Mark Mayhem, a newcomer. And they are not happy. Every person of color is left out of the debates that they're having. University of Southern California and ABC7 in Los Angeles rigged the debate schedule. That's who did it. Anyway, we got to go. Chuck Berry passed away on this day, aged 90 years old. One of the pioneers of rock and roll music. So we'll leave you with Chuck Berry today. May God bless you, protect you, each and every one of you, your family, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you. And God willing, we'll be back for the Thursday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour tomorrow. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?